Well, welcome parents. Welcome to our curriculum night for 2022 to 2023 for our middle school students this year. All right, so quickly, just to go over, we do have our school day start time starting at 8 a.m. every single day. Please allow your students to get to school as early as 7:35. And if your student does arrive after 8 a.m., they're going to receive a tardy slip. So keep this in mind. Of course, we want our students to get in and be early on time for school. All right, and let's go over dismissal. If your student is not going to be following their regular dismissal, for example, if your student takes the bus and you're going to pick them up that day or vice versa, please let us know. Call the front office. We'll be happy to make that accommodation and get your student to where they need to go. So please, of course, just let us know. All right, and Fridays online, let's talk about that really quickly. As we know, on Fridays, our students go online from 8 a.m. until noon. Any student that arrives after 8 a.m., there is a timestamp on our meetings now. So any students arriving after 8 a.m. are going to receive a tardy notification. Students should plan to be online by 7:45 a.m. This just gives them 15 minutes in case there are any technical difficulties or they're just not able to get on. They have time to call the school or text or call us or something like that. So please make sure that your students are getting in on time for Fridays online. It's only 4 hours. All right, and then we've got our attendance policy. This is something that we aren't having any issues with quite yet, but as we get into the year, attendance does start to become an issue for some students. Please make sure that your student is coming to school every single day as much as they can. We understand things happen, kids get sick, and emergencies occur. But at their 5th, 7th, 10th, 15th, and 19th absence, it is going to be an issue. So if you have any attendance questions or concerns, please speak to our Dean of Students, Mr. Frazier, or you could talk with Dr. Crawford. But yeah, this is our attendance policy. All right, so let's go ahead and get into math for 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. So math for 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade is going to be Envision Math. This is a book that is tied to an online program as well. So students are able to work in the curriculum through the book as well as online. I really like this system, and this goes along with our ELA system as well. They have a book and they also have an online program to do work and to learn from. All right, so we are going to be following the Arizona State standards for math when we are working through for each grade. And I do also want to mention for math, we do have Imagine Math. Imagine Learning Solutions is a great program that we've adopted at our school a couple years ago. And it helps students get to the level of math that they need to be for their grade level. Some students might go into Imagine Learning, take the pretest, and end up at a lower level than they're supposed to be. And that is okay because the program is designed to do that. It places a student where they actually are and then starts to give them content and lessons to eventually build them back up to where they need to be. It's a great program, especially because of how quickly students progress through this and how quickly they're able to get back to their grade level and even exceed their grade level. All right, so let's quickly talk about math. This is just a skill summary for each grade level. For 5th grade, students are going to be focusing on adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing whole numbers, fractions, and decimals. In 6th grade, concepts of ratios and rates to solve problems, rational numbers, including integers, writing, interpreting, and using expressions and equations, and statistical thinking. In 7th grade, they're going to start applying proportional thinking. So does this compare to that, and how do they compare? As well as operations with rational numbers and wording with expressions and linear equations. So those word problems, they're really going to start getting into that. They're also going to start solving geometric problems, including angles, vertices, surface areas, volumes, construction, all of those things that make up area and volume. as well as probability and statistical thinking. For our eighth grade, for our eighth grade friends, they are going to be focusing on formulating and reasoning about expressions and equations, including modeling bivariate data. So this is your X and your Y axis relationship. They're going to start learning linear equations, some more algebraic thinking, as well as using functions to describe qualitative relationships. They're going to also begin analyzing space. So this is also to do with volume. But in eighth grade, they're going to start using angles, distance, and they will be learning about the Pythagorean theorem. All right. Now on to social studies. Fifth, sixth, seventh, and eighth grade all have the same curriculum-ish. For social studies, they're going to be doing a similar book, but of course, geared to their grade level. It is called My World Social Studies, and this is also tied to an online program, like how I was mentioning with math, which is really cool for our students, of course. All right, so fifth grade social studies, they're going to go ahead and get into the American Revolution to industrialism. So they're learning about the beginning and the inception of this country, as well as United States geography. They'll also go ahead and start learning about citizens' rights, roles, and responsibilities as it pertains to the United States, as well as economics, individual economics, domestic economy, and the global economy. All right, and in sixth grade, they're going to start looking at global studies. So it's going to be world, religions, regions, cultures of the Eastern Hemisphere, as well as the impact of groups of people and their environment. So they're going to start understanding what we know about climate change and how we've affected the Earth over time. As well as this, they're going to look into ancient and modern geography. They're going to look at those ancient civilizations and learn how they grew and how they fell. In seventh grade, they're going to be focused on the integrated global studies. So this is the scientific revolution in the Enlightenment period, which was around the late 18th century to the present. As well as that, they're going to learn about revolutions. So the American Revolution, the French Revolution, all the different revolutions that occurred throughout the world based on their government at the time. As well as this, they will learn about global conflicts and their consequences, things like wars, World War I, World War II, the Civil War. As well as this, they are also going to do changes in government, and its impact on citizens' rights. So they'll start to really understand how policy affects our everyday life. And in eighth grade, they get into citizenship and civic engagement. This is the grade where they really start to understand how our government works and the foundations of our government. As well as this, they will learn about civil rights movements throughout American history, a really great topic to cover, especially now, and amendments to the Constitution and environmental issues throughout the world. All right, now we're moving on to my favorite. I'm a little biased. This is our ELA curriculum for 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th. ELA also, or Imagine Learning, also has a section for ELA called Imagine Language and Literacy. This is exactly like the math program that I was explaining earlier, where students will take a test, they will get placed where their level actually is, and then the program begins to give them lessons and content to get them where they need to be. The My Perspectives book right here with our dandelion, that is going to be our 6th through 8th grade. And then Open Court Reading is going to be our 5th grade. All right, so of course, our ELA courses, 5th through 8th grade, is going to be based on our Arizona State standards. They're guided by our benchmark data. So Galileo also takes into account standards, Arizona State standards, so everything kind of matches up. We're just focusing on the standards. The resources, of course, like I said, Open Court will be 5th grade, and the My Perspective books will be the 6th through 8th grade. And then some supporting resources we'll be using in ELA, of course, Imagine Language and Learning. We love to use Nearpod and Vocabulary in our classroom, which are both interactive programs that include presentations that students learn content from. And then, of course, we've got our benchmark, Galileo, and this is via Imagine Learning Solutions. So to give you a bit of an overview, our benchmark is through Galileo, is called Galileo, and it's through Imagine Learning Solutions. The two programs that our students use for math and for ELA is also through Imagine Learning Solutions. So it's all tied together. All right. Now I'm going to go through ELA pretty quickly. We got fifth grade ELA. They will be using Open Court. They're going to start building and continue to build on learned language and vocabulary. They're going to start studying grade appropriate vocabulary, sight words and all. They're going to be expanding their knowledge of synonyms, antonyms, related words, similar words, prefixes and suffixes, which is all a part of word analysis, as well as learning more compound sentences and how to form those. Grammar skills that they're going to be focusing on is going to be the use of verb tenses. Is it a past tense or a present tense? As well as correlative conjunctions, how we put sentences together, and transitions. For sixth grade, they use My Perspectives by Pearson Education. They will be focusing on reading more complex texts in a number of different genres, including nonfiction, specifically nonfiction. Currently in class, they're going to begin reading a nonfiction narrative. They will also be studying grade level vocabulary and acquiring more vocabulary words. They're going to start also focusing on becoming more independent writers. Formal essays are going to be a big thing for this grade. The beginning of the short response, giving the short response to a prompt, as well as forming multiple paragraphs to support a claim. Students will also practice the following grammar skills: dependent and independent clauses, the use and identification of appositives and pronouns. All right, and for seventh grade, they've got My Perspective by Pearson Education. For reading, students are going to start analyzing and synthesizing information, and their reading, strengthen their reading and writing skills. They're going to more deeply analyze, infer, and synthesize ideas when reading a text, and any text, whether it be informative, whether it be persuasive, whether it be a narrative. They're going to start writing even more in this grade as well. They will absolutely be learning the 5-paragraph essay format, and they're going to be using that to describe and to get across their ideas. They'll also start doing some research papers and projects, which will be very fun. For grammar, 7th grade students are going to start focusing on phrases and clauses in general and applying their functions in specific sentences. They're going to get more into complex sentences, forming complex sentences, and placing phrases and clauses within sentences to start recognizing and correcting those misplaced and dangling modifiers in grammar. All right, and last but very much not least, we've got our 8th grade. 8th grade uses My Perspectives, and that is through Pearson Education. Their reading, they're going to start being more exposed to complicated and more nuanced text. Things about human behavior, about the world, about relationships and things like that. I think this is a great grade, a wonderful time for 8th grade students to start looking at texts and content that deals with everyday and real world things. They're going to start really using their critical thinking skills to separate truth from error and having more fleshed out opinions. With writing, of course, we're going to do essays, but they're going to start getting more into types of writing, such as autobiographies, biographies, cover letters, informational reports, short stories. In this grade, I will be teaching them how to write a resume, which is an informative type of writing that they'll need to know, of course, for the everyday world. And for 8th grade grammar, students are going to begin to explain the function of verbals, gerunds, participles, infinitives in general, and their function in particular sentences. They're going to start forming and using verbs in active and passive voice and knowing what active and passive voice sounds like. They'll also learn to form and use verbs in indicative, imperative, interrogative, conditional, and subjunctive moods. as well as recognizing and beginning to correct those weird shifts in verbals, voice, and mood. They're going to start really being able to understand how the author's voice shifts throughout a text. All right, and this is just my quote. I wanted to share it with everyone. Educating the mind without educating the heart is truly no education at all. Aristotle said this, and he couldn't have said it any better. This is something that I live by in my classroom, especially when teaching ELA. We get into content that really touches our hearts and really impacts our minds. So I always like to leave you with this quote. All right, now let's go ahead and get into science. We're almost there to the end. 5th through 8th grade science, they're going to start with the inquiry learning model, which takes advantage of students' natural curiosity. They're going to be able to kind of see what's there and start choosing what is interesting to them and what they're curious about. It requires well-developed questioning skills to do this. So 5th through 8th grade will start to learn how to critically look at science reports, critically look at certain science experiments, and really start questioning them. It helps students develop strategies and processes for collecting and evaluating information. Each middle school grade level will be completing a STEM project this year as well, which will be really fun. We have our annual the science fair coming up at the end of the year every year, so that's going to be a great time for them. Topics covered throughout the year for 5th through 8th grade include force, motion, and energy, the skeletal system, that's life science, atoms, molecules, states of matter, plant cells, animal cells, chemical and physical properties, and reactions. And then this is just a little bit about our STEM lab. STEM, of course, stands for science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. All science students 5th through 8th grade will be participating in STEM activities and projects such as aerodynamics, chemical properties, just to name a few. All right. So just for your information, this is for 5th and 8th grade parents and families only. 5th through 8th grade students are required to take the science assessment at the end of the year, and the benchmark assessment is assessed throughout the year as well. Keep in mind, this is only 5th and 8th grade students. 6th grade students and 7th grade students do not take the science benchmark or the science state test. So that y'all know. All right. And of course, in science, Miss Howard loves using Nearpod. She loves to have the students learning interactively online, as well as taking them to the lab. Just last week, I saw her with our students at the lab. So science is going to be really great this year. 5th through 8th grade should have a great time and learn just so much. All right. So let's talk about report cards really quickly. So report cards and progress reports are very different. The progress report comes out just to let you know how your student is doing so far. It's not a final grade, and quite honestly, it's just to let you know where they are. So when they get to the report card, they kind of know what they need to do. The report card comes out every quarter. There will be 4 report cards. They will be sent via Class Dojo, and they will be handed off to your child. So when those report cards come through, I believe on a Thursday, we'll be handing those to your student and sending them to you via Dojo. This is how the grades are broken down for each class. 10% is going to go to Bell Work and Imagine Learning. In math and ELA, that 10% grade is going to be their Imagine Learning usage if they're getting onto the program 15 minutes a day. And then for science and social studies, that Bell Work grade is going to be just their regular Bell Work that they do throughout. So if they give a history quiz, pop quiz, or if there is a science worksheet that is done, that will also be counted as Bell Work. And then there are 5% that go to quizzes and 5% that go to homework. Homework is really important, but we try not to harp on this grade too much because generally classwork, everything that they do here at school is going to be worth the most. So 30% for classwork. And then right under classwork, we've got projects and essays and tests all falling at 25%. So in general, we really want students to be focused on those grades, even if they're 10, 5, and 5% of their grade, but that classwork, projects, essays, and tests must be completed. We don't want to have any missing assignments there. So this is going to require your student to come to school every single day ready to learn and ready to complete assignments. All right, let's talk about homework really quick. Monday is going to be for social studies. Tuesday is going to be for ELA. Wednesday is going to be for math. And then we've got Thursday for science. Homework is going to take about an hour a night, every night. Sometimes we might send home a homework assignment that will take less than an hour. But for me in particular, since I teach ELA, I will say I'm not going to send home homework that is going to take way more than an hour. Generally, I try not to make my students do too much at home. I try to keep a lot of our learning in the classroom as much as possible. So this is our homework schedule. All right, and tutoring, really quick, tutoring is going to start in October. We have not been able to secure the funding for tutoring quite yet. This is not on our part. It is actually on the part of the state. They're figuring some things out. So just wait. Of course, we're going to let you know. We'll notify you when tutoring is going to start in October so that you are ready to send your student with their permission slip so that they are able to come to tutoring. However, after school is going to be starting after Labor Day, I believe. So we do have a homework club. It's a great way for students to stay at school, but also get some homework done and get help from teachers. So if your student is needing homework help, send them to after school. And we'll be making that announcement very soon here. All right. And these are just a list of some helpful, helpful websites. The GGPA website, we've got our calendar, our lunch menus, all kinds of things on there. Anything you need to know, that GGPA website is going to have it. We also have Class Dojo. This is our internal website where you get updated on all the latest and greatest. If you're not on Class Dojo, please join Class Dojo as soon as possible. And then we have Google Classroom. Personally, for ELA, I will be adding our parents into our Google Classroom so that you have access to any assignments that I put on there. I know that last year, students or parents were wondering and questioning, hey, where do I find the assignment for my students so I could see it? And I didn't have any students on Google Class or any parents on there yet. So this year, you will be invited. And then we have Imagine Language and Literacy and Imagine Math. Both of these programs are for students to be practicing 15 to 20 minutes every single day. This is where some of their bell work grade is going to come from for math and ELA. All right, so last but definitely not least, if you're not aware, we are communicating on Class Dojo. We dojo it up every day. We post when the bus leaves. We post when we have an event. We post when something is going on at school that you need to know. We answer questions, and we also message each other through this website. So if you have not joined Class Dojo, I highly implore you to get together with your homeroom teacher, your child's homeroom teacher, and provide your mobile phone number so we can put it in and send you an invite via text message. It's also a mobile app, so you don't have to use your computer to access this. You can just pull up your phone and see any messages and also be able to message your student's homeroom teacher very easily. So join Class Dojo, please. All right, so that brings us to the end. That concludes this. Thank you, parents, for watching this. If you watched the whole thing, I really appreciate it. If you have any questions about curriculum, about classes, about anything that your student is going to be involved in this year, please feel free. Message us on Class Dojo, call the school, have them transfer to us, or even just better yet, please give us an email. I check my email every single day, and I know that my colleagues do as well. Send us an email. We'll be so happy to talk with you and answer your question.